Alright, this is Ryan here at PHP speaking on behalf of Bioacademics. What we're going to be running through today is zooming into the hip joint, looking at different axes, and then going over a few of the landmarks just so we're all on the same page. So as we move forward, we've got our ilium that constitutes part of our iliofemoral joint. We've got the femur, which constitutes the other part, thus containing that iliofemoral joint, also called coxifemoral and also called acetabular-femoral, just to kind of give you some other nomenclature of the hip. So as far as landmarks of the hip, let's start on the ilium first. So as we start on the ilium, you've got this protrusion here, which is our ASIS. You've got just inferior to that, our AIIS, anterior superior inferior spine, anterior inferior iliac spine. And then inferior to that, you see the rim where the femoral head comes into. That is your acetabulum. Then, as I said, the femoral head here, moving down to the neck. And then you've got this large bony protrusion here, which is your greater trochanter. And then on the medial side, the lesser trochanter. And then as we run down through, obviously the shaft of the femur. Okay? So moving from there, we've gone over a few landmarks, so let's go over some axes, right? So if I have an imaginary line that runs from this lateral side into the head, through to the other side, I've got a frontal plane axis, okay? So around that frontal plane axis, we have a hip flexion position or a hip extension position. All right, that would be our frontal plane axis, sagittal plane motion. So let's flip it the other way. If I was to go after a sagittal plane axis, which would shoot right through here, right? Obviously coming out the back, imaginary line. Now I have what is my frontal plane or abduction, hip abduction, and frontal plane hip adduction. Okay? And then the third axis we're going to talk about briefly is our transverse plane axis, which is running longitudinally right through here, and then obviously imaginary line up superiorly. Okay? So as we look at that, I have around that axis internal, hip internal rotation and hip external rotation. All right? So the three axes we just discussed are our frontal plane axis, which gives us sagittal plane motion, right? I've got my sagittal plane axis, which gives me my frontal plane motion, and then I've got my longitudinal axis, which gives me my transverse plane motion. So, with this, just a quick brief overview of going through the iliofemoral joint so that when we apply and take you out on our floor, this is our zoom in version of what's going on in and around the joint here with the hip.